This is the F16 Voron. For this, all you need is a square sheet of paper. It can be for it. You can of course convert a A4 sheet or a US letter size sheet into a square paper. So we'll begin by folding a few diagonals from this corner to this corner. Try to get the creases accurately. If you have folded out of the, if you have cut this out, your it might not be a perfect square, but anything that just goes to those points is fine. And it should look something like so. Now you're going to unfold and of course repeat for the opposite side, folding from corner to corner again, making sure that that point lands right on top of itself. And here again I'll just realign these corners. Okay, now that we have folded that, we can then unfold, and now we'll fold this point all the way down to meet this other diagonal edge. Crease across, and next we want to fold this down to meet this edge, while of course the center crease is landing on the center crease. But here we want to actually extend this by a bit, to miss that by maybe a centimeter or 2 centimeters. It just depends how large you want your uh, spike to become. And crease across. This is what the plane would look like right now. Now we will fold down a small band of paper, like maybe a fourth of an inch, even maybe even smaller. And you'd want to of course land the center crease on the center crease. This will improve flight performance by adding some thickness to the front, which will make it want to tend to move forward while falling, which will be useful for the flight. And now you'll just of course repeat here. You could make this band even larger, depending on how well you want your plane to perform, or if you want it to be heavier, especially if you're using some lighter paper. And you will just then take this edge all the way to the center while controlling the layers, of course, making sure it lands nicely, and then creasing all the way across, including the band. Next you're going to repeat of course for the other side. Again you'll try to control the layers, and then you will crease across. Now you'll want to repeat this step again, folding this edge towards the center again, controlling the layers. This will be hard to do while you keep all the layers down, but it's possible. Something like so. If you have a bone folder or a ruler, you can use that to flatten this out, but it's not required. And of course we'll want to repeat the same fold on this side, controlling these layers, preventing them from passing the center. I'll just recrease this past the center bit, and just making sure that it goes all the way to the top point. That's very important, even more so for some of the later steps. And of course, now that your plane is aligned well, you can crease. And now you'd want to create the wing crease. Now this depends on the aesthetic choice. You could make the crease right from this point here. You'll see that reference crease here. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but yeah, this one. You can crease right from this point all the way to the back edge, or you can shorten or Make the crease longer or shorter depending on which size wing you want. I'll miss this by maybe half a centimeter. That created my wing crease. I missed it by a bit. You could of course go all the way, and I'll just make this same fold for the other side. This just controls how your wings would look like. And now we will unfold these sides, just this, all of this crease we just made alongside the previous creases. And now simply fold this edge, the center part, this layer we want to fold it to land right on this crease here, this pre-existing crease which the paper is folding on right now, just making so it lands there. And of course on the other side as well, you might want to miss it by a bit because we're going to fold here, but it's fine. And of course we'll repeat for the other side. Nice. Now you'll just wait a second. Yeah, now you'll just fold down these parts like so, and now you'll be ending off with this weird set of creases, but but this will make sense in a moment. Now we'll just make the jet fold, prepare for the jet fold by folding this entire part of the paper alongside this existing crease. So you want to take this entire part and then just fold it down all the way to that point, crease it nicely, and then while this is like so, you can just do the same on the other side, and then making sure that they're well aligned, of course. Another thing you want to make sure is that the point, uh, this layer should not get too far away from the other thicker layers. That is something that can happen, and it could impact your flight performance, just not by much, but it's important if you don't let that happen. Now you'll fold this side up, laying it flat, folding this side up, this wing, and now you will just fold this point, the part that crosses the center, crosses the back edge, I mean, right across itself, and then just reverse it. It's a tiny piece of paper, so it might be a bit difficult, but of course it's pretty simple. And then of course you'll flip over and repeat that here before continuing on, where you'll want to create that, fold this wing up, fold this part that crosses the back edge back across itself, then lifting the paper up and folding it into its pocket by reversing it. Okay, now we are ready for making the afterburners. For that we'll just fold this about halfway up here, just about halfway, landing it on the back edge of the same edge, and then we'll fold it all the way to the top and kind of catch it here. This, and we can just lightly crease here. We'll complete the full afterburner once we create the locking mechanism and all, and of course we'll repeat for the other side, landing this edge about maybe 1/3 or halfway, folding it all up so that it lands nicely here, and then just creasing that bit for later. Okay, now we need to work on the fin. So for that we'll just fold up this part, reversing this crease to create the fin. The fin can come in a variety of sizes and forms. You can just leave it as it is, like so, or you can do some angle changing here, where I'll actually show what we did here. Where what we did, uh, we folded this part right across from this corner to this corner, folded this down. I know this is a bit messy, Then we folded this down. This just depends on how much you want the angle to change. You folded that down, and now this is a trickier bit where we'll fold from this point to this point while the paper will not lie flat, and we'll do this on both sides. And once we fold the plane in, we can of course collapse it. If this does not make sense, we'll do it here as well, don't worry. And of course you can just leave the plane like this with the swept back tail. That looks fine. You can of course experiment with the sizes. Now for doing so, we'll just flip over and then fold this point right between those two corners, or as far as you can get it, while landing the center crease on itself. So something like so. Then you'll fold this point down and make a crease again, basically the same type of crease, but it depends on how much you want the angle to change or where you want it to change. So something a bit smaller would work fine, something like so, landing the center crease on the center crease. And if you want to, you can even flip over and check the accuracy. Okay, so now that we have this, we can just kind of letting this crease open. We are going to make, while not letting the paper move, this is important. Want to make a crease from here to this back corner. This is optional step, of course. I told you the fin angle change is optional, and you want to make this crease right from this point to the back. Let me just do that, and the paper will bubble. That's natural. Now you will just let me reaffirm this crease. Unfold that and repeat for the other side where you don't want this to shift much, and then you just uh, repeat the same step here, of course. Okay, now we are of course ready to, then we can of course collapse the rest of the plane as it was, and while we keep both of these creases folded, which will let us then get the angle change in the plane, which looks really nice, of course. Let me just adjust this, just a second. Yeah, then you will just fold it in and the angle change will start taking effect. In the other plane we basically did the same thing, but we just, instead of folding it like so, we just folded it in the opposite direction, if that makes sense. Let me just reaffirm these creases. I'll do it again while keeping the plane like this where these creases are popped out. Going to fold down. This was just one of the ways you could make the fin. There's a ton of different ways, and I'll just show you one more angle change you can do. Fold this part down, this part up, right alongside the same creases. The only difference being we are doing it on the same side as a jet fold this time. And then of course you will flip over and then just kind of reiterate those pre-existing creases. And now what will end up happening is when you push both of these creases and you fold down on the pre-existing fin fold, you will find that you have this really nice angle change. Of course it's not the same as the previous one, of course you can see it on display here, but it does certainly look really nice and adds a extra flair to the plane. Of course you could just leave it as it is, but it's really nice to just have this extra bit. This is completely optional though. Next I'll just crease across, just I'll just crease these parts here, and then we'll work on the lock before making the afterburners, where we just take this portion of the plane, this one of these layers, fold it in to this pocket all the way in, and then just repeat for the other side. If you're familiar with jets, you will recognize that this is used a lot for locking the plane. And now you will just repeat this on this side. If possible, try to do it on the opposite side for better weight management, and it's possible, of course, as you saw here. The layers are getting really thick, but this is necessary. Of course, you could also do this same step on the opposite side. Now we are basically ready. We just need to make those afterburners. Using the pre-existing creases, we can form one afterburner here, tucking it in and just creasing it towards the back. And of course, we'll form the other one here, just letting the paper do its thing. Uh, it's getting a bit triangular because of those pre-existing creases that we made to hold its shape, but you can of course change that. And you want this to basically tuck right into this so that it also remains so it doesn't come unfolded. This is being a bit of a challenge, but I'll try my best. Something like so. And of course you can move these layers to a better position, but this is pretty much the finished design. You can move these layers to better positions, of course. I'm just trying to make these afterburners correctly, and if folded correctly like in this previous model, well, they did come unfolded. But as you can see, this is what some perfect afterburner should look like. I'll just lock this plane to show you again. And now even while locked, these are just using the same mechanisms. Even while locked, they still uh, hold their shape and look really nice. And you will also see that while we have been folding, the plane has developed this really cool spike at the bottom. This was what the first fold was for. And this is the entire model. Of course, you can see it has this angle change here. It's not as visible, of course, but it's more visible on this model. It has the angle change, it has those diamond wings, and which you can of course control how big they are. It I'll just show this, and it just flies really well because of the extra layers here, and it just has a really nice aesthetic. These afterburners and uh, the spike also act as some shock absorbers, and you can probably fold the spike to form a landing gear. And also you might have noticed this plane is quite simple for all this different aesthetics it has. So for flight you of course want these to be pretty much perpendicular. My wings are a bit misshaped, but that's fine. You want this, and one more thing you want to check is that from this side the plane should also be, these wings should also be parallel to the ground, and the tail should be perpendicular, tail fin. And I'll just show the angle change again. So this is the finished design, and I hope you have fun flying.